I'm Danny Hirschfeld, and this is Different Thinking. Hi everyone. Today I want to talk a little bit about the elections that are going to be coming up in Israel on March 2nd. And hopefully as we approach the elections, I'm going to have more and more videos, sort of an election journal, where we'll talk about some of the main issues that are being raised in regards to the elections and how they can apply in general to political theory. So today we'll start with the most interesting story of the elections up to now, which is, of course, the primaries in the Likud. And the reason I'm going to talk about this specifically is because I've seen that pretty much everyone in the media and lots of the politicians themselves seem to be getting the message wrong. When people think of primaries, they often think of really internecine warfare, where it's just a chance for members within the party to mudsling one another, and that makes the whole party eventually look bad. And that can be the case, but here it's really not what's happened. If you look at the main arguments that have been raised in these primaries, the challenger Gidon Sa'ar, he hasn't really criticized the Prime Minister Bibi, and his whole campaign is really that while Netanyahu has been a good prime minister, external factors prevented him from forming a new government, and that whether because of his character or the legal establishment that's been brought down against him, that Sa'ar is really is needed there to form a government and bring back voters who left the Likud for blue and white or any other parties. And while polls show that he is going to make some voters, turn some voters off of the Likud, at the very least he'll keep those voters within the right-wing bloc and therefore be able to form a government, whereas Netanyahu really won't be able to change things from the way they've been in the last two elections. Prime Minister Netanyahu, on the other hand, his main argument in the primary has been to highlight his experience and his accomplishments, and while he hasn't yet been able to form a government, he really holds all the qualifications and characteristics and skills that the majority of voters want in a leader. Whether it's his foreign policy prowess, his economic success so far, and because of the issues caused by the prosecution and the police, people will actually rise now and support him further and give him greater bargaining power, and that means that he will be able to sort of force a government together, even if the right-wing bloc can't hit that magic 61 number. So both Gidon Sa'ar and Netanyahu haven't really questioned the character of one another. They've both been quite respectful of one another, and while there has been some mudslinging on the sidelines from rank-and-file members, but there are always people who like to insult other people, the politicians have been comparatively civil to one another. So far, there's still a week, more than a week to go before the primaries, but so far things have been really quite on message and quite clean. And what this means for the general election is that the first 2 full weeks of a very short campaign stretch, the media will be almost entirely focused on Likud. And even for a few days after the primary, analyzing the results. No other party will get this coverage. There are some articles about attempts to unite Bayit Yehudit, Kuma, and Otzma Yehudit, and some efforts to unite on the left, the Labor and the Democratic camp parties. But really, all the main focus, all the lead stories having to do with politics are focus on the Likud. And that's always the best strategy, to get everyone talking about you. All press is good press. You could call it the Trump strategy, that even if what they say about you is bad, if Likud frames the story, Likud will see a bump in the polls, regardless of who wins. Also, the main challengers in this election are blue and white, and they're, according to polls, most likely to be the largest faction in the Knesset. They're essentially frozen. They can't start their campaign until they know what will happen in the Likud primaries. The most likely scenario of the primaries, of course, is that Netanyahu will win, though Sa'ar has recently gained some strength, so it could be an interesting fight. But if Netanyahu wins, he comes back with a greater mandate from his party, and blue and white really can't unseat him at that point. They can't expect him to just go away. They also know that they likely can't make a government just with the left, and they don't really want to rely on the joint list of the Arab parties. They can't really come to an agreement with Bibi since, well, even if he comes with a stronger bargaining position, essentially the entire raison d'etre of their party is to be an anti-Netanyahu party. And so therefore they're very unlikely to sit with him. That's why they've already started taking a new strategy of sort of downplaying Yair Lapid and trying to hide any disagreements that they had with the Haredi parties to try to get them to eventually join a Gantz-led government. It's really their only hope. If Saar does manage to win, then really, in all honesty, I don't know what Blue and White's campaign will be. They may turn on Saar and say that he and other Likud MKs are just as bad or just as complicit in Netanyahu's crimes, or that Saar is really an extreme right-winger. You know, Saar has certainly placed himself very staunchly on the right, but those arguments still won't really resonate throughout the party, right? Even though it tries to frame itself as a centrist party, it has people like Ofer Shelach and Yael German who are, you know, completely on the left, very, very far left even compared to the other left-wing parties. And then you have people on, you know, from Moshe Ya'alon's party, Moshe Ya'alon, and Tzvi Hauser, Yoaz Handel, Gadi Everkan, who it will be very hard for them to say that they can't sit with the right, with people like Gidon Saar and Yuli Edelstein and Yisrael Katz, who really, you know, up to a year and a half ago, they really thought they were sort of the future leaders of the country and looked up to them. So it will be very hard for them not to sit in a government led by Saar. So basically, the Likud primaries have completely paralyzed the rest of the election campaign, and only the Likud benefits from this. And by being seen as a true democratic party. Of course, there is the issue of splitting and splintering within the party. People love to claim that unity is everything, unity is our strength, and splitting is what caused the destruction of the Second Temple. And well, I don't want to go into a history lesson, but suffice it to say that a party where there is some healthy disagreement makes the party members more active, makes the party feel more alive. And that gives greater incentive to get up and volunteer for the party and to go out and vote for the party. Also, when people demand unity, what they often mean is, you know, unify behind me, do as I say. And that turns from unity very quickly into suppression. And in a suppressive parties, any member who feels suppressed, who feels like there's something where, you know, they don't exactly 100% agree with the party leadership, they're less likely to get out there, they're less likely to get other people to vote for the party or even to vote for it themselves. That's my view on why some space for disagreement within any political party is really good for the party and for democracy. I think that these primaries will only benefit the Likud party, but I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. And of course, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be able to see more of my videos as we approach the elections, and we'll be able to discuss other issues as well. I'm Dan Hirschfeld, and this has been Different Thinking.